The purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. It is no substitute for professional care by your doctor or your qualified healthcare professional. Never disregard or delay professional medical advice because of something you've heard on this podcast or in any linked material. Guests who speak on this podcast express their own opinions, experience, and conclusions. Dr. Shirley neither endorses nor opposes any particular opinion discussed on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, practice, institution, or other entity with which Dr. Shirley may be affiliated.
Welcome to Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty. This podcast is curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD, as the definitive source of holistic wellness through beauty.
Hey everyone, it's Dr. Shirley. Welcome to 15 Minutes of Fab, a segment of the Forever Fab podcast where I review products, services, experiences, and frankly, whatever, in 15 minutes or less. If the full-length podcast is a couture dress, for example, then 15 Minutes of Fab is like a button-down French cuff white shirt paired with leather leggings. If you don't have time to tune into the full-length podcast, then check out 15 Minutes of Fab, just a small dose. Some have considered it truth and beauty or plastic surgery secrets or as a nerdy or academic take on wellness and beauty with a dash of fashion. Consider it what you may. My aim is to engage you as a credible and authoritative voice in most, if not all aspects of beauty and wellness with a dash of fashion. That includes products, wellness services, technologies, innovations, new scientific research, and plastic surgery. As the founder of Holistic Plastic Surgery, my approach to beauty is through a lens of wellness that's grounded in science, backed by medical study and research, strengthened by my clinical experience, and bolstered by my surgical training with the use of principles and techniques of plastic surgery. And then there's my love of fashion. Of course, I feel uniquely qualified to talk with you about beauty, wellness, aesthetics, and plastic surgery, as well as products and services within those spaces, not only because of my extensive, and may I add, expensive training and expansive background, but also because I'm one of you. Many of the human issues around aging and being a fierce fab person, as well as an agent for positive change, I live these too, and I try. You're not alone. So together we can help the world become a more beautiful, forever fab place. So if you'll have me and give me at least 15 minutes of your time, let's get at it. In this new year, I've decided that it will be one of expansion and discovery. So I'll explore all sorts of topics, near and possibly far-fetched, while still focusing on the topics that make the Forever Fab podcast, well, fabulous, namely fashion, the art of living well or wellness, and beauty. As part of my philosophy of holistic plastic surgery, which I created well over probably now 15 years ago, where I believe that beauty emanates from within, wellness plays an integral role in my practice. And this goes for many aspects of life that help you to live in grace and beauty, including nutrition, exercise, products, services, technologies, mind, body, spirit, and science. This week's episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast is dedicated to joyful living. The title of this week's episode is It's Not All in Your Head, Mental Illness in Women of a Certain Age. According to an AI overview, in 2023, an estimated 26.4% of women in the United States had some type of mental illness in the past year, compared to 19.7% of men. This is clearly an urgent situation. Women are also twice as likely to be diagnosed with mood disorders, such as depression. Furthermore, women are more likely to experience anxiety disorders, such as panic disorder and specific phobias. So while there is a mental health crisis in the United States, both genders are affected, it is a more dire situation for women. Some of the signs and symptoms of mood disorders and mental illness in women of a certain age include, but are not limited to, noticeable changes in mood, an overall reduction in energy, irregular changes in appetite, difficulty concentrating, a lack of restful sleep, difficulty engaging in daily activities, social withdrawal, and inappropriate or a lack of personal care, among others. A plethora of factors, including biological, psychological, social, and environmental, contribute to mental illness in women. These factors often overlap, making it difficult to pinpoint a single cause for mental health challenges. It is important to understand that all of the factors that I'm going to be listing for you are just some of the potential factors, and that the relationship between gender and mental health is complex and multifaceted. Also, because most of this information is a collection of information from various sources on the web, collated from multiple AI overviews that I researched on the web, there are some other factors that may be contributory or even causative, and those may be missing on this following list. So, some of the associated factors include, but are certainly not limited to, and definitely not necessarily only ascribed to women, men, and how people identify otherwise may also be subjected to these factors, but I am particularly listing and speaking about factors that affect women. Biological factors. Hormonal fluctuations or changes in hormone levels during menstrual cycles, pregnancy, and menopause can impact mood and contribute to anxiety and depression. Genetics. A family history of mental illness can increase an individual's risk. Brain chemistry. Differences in brain structure and function may influence the development of certain mental illnesses. Psychological factors, trauma and abuse, stressful life events, and life events such as financial difficulties or relationship problems where the death of a loved one or even the death of a pet can trigger or exacerbate mental health conditions. Low self-esteem. Feelings of inadequacy or low self-esteem can contribute to depression and anxiety, particularly if these feelings of inadequacy have not been addressed in a healthy way. Social and environmental factors and social and economic disadvantage can also play a role. Women are disproportionately affected by poverty, discrimination, and lack of access to resources, which can further increase the risk of mental illness. Also, social isolation and loneliness are also contributing factors. Older women, especially those who are widowed, divorced, or separated, may experience social isolation, which can lead to depression and anxiety. Gender roles and expectations. Societal pressures and expectations related to gender roles can lead to stress and anxiety. Caregiving responsibilities. Women often shoulder a significant burden of caregiving, which can lead to burnout and mental health issues. Many older adults are caregivers for spouses with chronic illnesses or other family members with chronic illnesses, and the demands of caregiving can be overwhelming and contribute to mental health challenges. Cultural and societal factors. Cultural norms and beliefs can also impact a woman's mental health, particularly in areas like body image and expectations of motherhood. Retirement and reduced purpose. Retirement can lead to a sense of loss of purpose and identity, which can negatively impact mental health. Financial strain. Low income and lack of financial security or stability can exacerbate mental health problems. Physical health and medication. Chronic illnesses. Coexisting chronic illness like heart disease, diabetes, or arthritis can contribute to depression and anxiety. Medication side effects. Older adults may be more susceptible to medication side effects, which can negatively impact their mental health. Ageism is another factor. Societal biases and discrimination against older adults can also negatively impact their mental health. Ruminating. Women may ruminate more frequently than men, focusing repetitively on negative emotions, potentially contributing to depression. And unequal power and status. Women in society may experience discrimination and unequal power dynamics in various aspects of life, all of which can negatively impact mental health. There's another factor. Let's talk about the M word, menopause. Hormonal changes during menopause can lead to mood swings, irritability, and other mental health symptoms, especially if and when this stage in life is associated with disruptive and sometimes debilitating symptoms such as night sweats leading to poor sleep, hot flashes potentially contributing to reduced social interactions, weight gain that is recalcitrant to standard weight loss methods, just emotional lability, reduced libido, perhaps contributing to lack of relating in personal relationships, lack of joy, and more. The most common types of mental health conditions that are typically associated with menopause are depression and anxiety. Hormonal changes during perimenopause, menopause, and even postmenopause can trigger or worsen these conditions. An article in the Harvard Health Online quoted Dr. Hadeen Jaffe, who's the Associate Professor of Psychiatry and Women's Health at Harvard Medical School and the Executive Director of the Connors Center for Women's Health and Gender Biology at Brigham and Women's Hospital. Harvard Health Online quotes Dr. Jaffe as saying that, quote, the vast majority of women who develop significant mood issues during perimenopause have had them in the past. It's relatively rare for someone with no history of depression or anxiety to suddenly develop a severe case of it at menopause, end quote. Perhaps in this statement alone, there may be hope that if we become more aware of the causes and more aware of the on-ramp to mental illness, there may be a way to mitigate some of the severity of the symptoms to a certain extent by seeking help sooner. Now, this has yet to be seen and proven. You've been listening to part 1 of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast. Stay tuned next week for part 2. Thank you for listening to this week's Forever Fab podcast episode of 15 Minutes of Fab. Until next time, live well, prosper, and stay beautiful, inside and out, and stay forever fab. If you like this episode of 15 Minutes of Fab on the Forever Fab podcast, please share it and subscribe to the feed. Did you learn anything new? Review this episode by writing just one word to describe the value you got from listening today, and give this episode a 5-star rating. In case you missed it, listen to this episode, past episodes, or check out who's coming up next on foreverfabpodcast.com. If you enjoy listening to the Forever Fab podcast, get more audio and more visuals with a membership through Patreon. Choose the gold, platinum, or diamond tier for premium added content, special co-hosts, lifestyle videos, branded merchandise, and more by visiting patreon.com/foreverfab. And if you are a founder of or represent a beauty or wellness brand and you want to be featured on an episode of Forever Fab podcast segment of 15 Minutes of Fab, send me some stuff. Visit foreverfabpodcast.com and fill out the contact form. For general holistic beauty tips or to set up an appointment with me to discuss your personalized options for leveling up your beauty, go to elementsandgraces.com and sign up for my newsletter. And for an online e-consultation on time, anytime, and on your time, visit clicklift.com for your wellness, plastic surgery, and beauty questions on the go. And it's time for the elevated house call, wouldn't you say? Jet Set Beauty RX offers beauty on-call services near your home or other domicile, delivering beauty in the privacy of a medically equipped, state-of-the-art mobile aesthetics unit. Reserve at jetsetbeautyrx.com. That's all for now. Thank you for sharing the love. Goodbye, gorgeous.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Forever Fab, the podcast on fashion, the art of living, and all things beauty, curated by Dr. Shirley Madhere, MD. live beautifully and help make the world a more beautiful place.